y'all, welcome back to the channel. I hope you enjoyed this Sims 4 speed build video. This is my first ever speed build video voiceover like this, and so I hope you all enjoy it. It took quite a bit of time editing this video from 5 hours down to what it is now, which hopefully is much shorter. um, but we are refurnishing, redecorating, remodeling a gallery build. I will link it and name and credit the creator, original creator, of course, in the video in the description box, post edit. And so please go support them. And if you want this build specifically, I'll also put it in my gallery and re-upload it as such, because I put quite a bit of work into this, as you can see. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. So what started off as a modern home, I ended up turning into a luxury cabin style build. It is tucked away in Hindquarter Hideaway in Brindleton Bay, which is a world that we got with the Cats and Dogs pack. And so I did do a bit of decorating before ever filming anything. So this home is partially decorated, but there is a lot that I'm going to do in this video. For example, you'll see right now I'm building a garage. So like I add on to this lot, to this home. And then that's going to give us another bedroom on the second floor to work with. And so kind of just doing a bit of an expansion work. I really do love this log type wallpaper. It was just perfect for what I was going for, and you have to thank the season for that, honestly, because it was winter in the game as I'm doing this build, and so it did inspire sort of a Christmas snowy escape type of feel. And so that was really fun to play with. Especially as I'm getting into this garage here, y'all. This garage was so complicated, for no reason at all. I had quite a bit of trouble kind of getting it the way that I wanted, but ultimately I ended up turning that garage into like its own little room and then adding a platform on the inside because I knew I wanted a sort of platform towards the back of the room there. And so you'll kind of see where I do just eventually just turn it into a room. And then I'll add like a platform in that way. There's like a staircase leading up into the space. So not like a traditional drive-in garage, but more just kind of like a shed, I guess, attached to the home. And so then I'll go around and I'm adjusting the trimming. I ended up settling with a brown wood and black accent sort of aesthetic for the exterior of the home and a bit on the inside. And so I did imagine that the family that would live here was a single family home. So two parents, two adults and at least a child, a young child, as you will see. You kind of get a little preview here of the cinematics of what that garage might look like before I go in and add a bit more clutter. I do love clutter in my game, but not too much. Because I'm not a clutter fanatic. I'm not super great at clutter and finding it and placing it, but I do love it. And so I do try to put clutter when we're decorating. You'll be able to see that a bit, especially as we're decorating the first and second floor of this build. And so now I'm just going around the exterior of the home. I figured, you know what? I know this was a modern build, and so I do appreciate a flat roof, especially because it's so simple when it comes to building. I never really got a hang of roofing, and so I really want to thank Jessicapie, which is another Sims build creator on YouTube that I absolutely love. And so I was really inspired by the way that she uses roofing to just really add to the home and make it feel more realistic. And so I was intentional about placing my roof structures and placing the foundations for those roofs around. And so you'll kind of see me moving around quite a bit, just making sure that it makes sense. And I think the fun thing about this game and the roofs, it doesn't have to make full sense, but it's really easy to kind of play with the structure. And so that is the roof I ended up with. And now I'm just going around with some windows and making sure that those spaces and bits of roof that were peeking out did have some small windows, some tiny windows, and you'll notice that a lot in bigger homes. So that was really fun to do. as well. And I just really love how that came together and made this feel like a home, y'all. And I'm sure there's some architecture friendly language that I'm not using that I probably just don't know yet. But hopefully, as I do this more, I'll probably get better. So if you guys have any ideas on how you take it and how you perceive this build to look, please let me know. Please inform me, educate me. But for now, it was just a cabin. It gave cabin. It still gives cabin to this day. So I do love it. I do think it's cozy, especially that little back patio there. I love that back patio. I think the log, what is that called? Just that little wrap around, like the railing, the log style railing that really put the perfect touches on that, especially the black windows with like the lines and the grid pattern. I think adds to that aesthetic I was going for. And so because I'm very much in this winter escape, winter hideaway cabin vibe, I did want to add a lot of trees around it. And so I'll do that. I did that a bit in the beginning and now I'll just kind of go back in with more pine trees and just more foliage. So I'm currently picking a mailbox, put a little decorations around. I'll eventually add a car, of course, to the front of the family's home. And we're just going in, decorating outside. There'll probably be a Christmas tree somewhere, so you'll see me add that inside soon. And now we're getting into the columns, which is really important, y'all. This is something that I don't normally use, but I was just looking at the Sims guide there at the bottom left of the screen. You can see like the roofing, the trees, and the fences. And so I noticed those columns and I just said, let me see what a column gives. Again, this is not something I would normally use in a build, but I did want to go more realistic, more just I really wanted to feel like something, especially because have been playing with this family for quite a bit of time. And you will see them in my next LP that I'm currently working on and editing as well. And so this is the home for one of the Nkali sisters and her family. And so I was playing with them quite a bit, and I was like, "You know what? Let me give them a proper home." Hence why you'll see some of the home is already decorated with the essentials. And so now we're just kind of going around, just making sure everything is how it needs to be. And now I'm just adding more foliage, y'all, more greenery, more trees. I'll go in with some bushes because I think bushes are just a perfect little like what is it called? Like a hedge. A hedge around the build is what I eventually ended up picking, especially with that pool there. And I did have to cut back on that pool a bit because it was wrapping around half of the lot and taking up quite a bit of space. So it was already a pretty large pool, which is why I was able to kind of cut back a little bit and add that shed space there. And so you'll see I end up putting these hedges around. I really love those hedges. Y'all, again, adding to the realism, adding to the coziness of the lot, of the build. And so that was really, really fun to do. And of course, they need a car. Shout out to the CC creators. I do use a lot of CC in my builds, in my game. And that is the only way that I was able to get this really cute Mercedes G-Wagon on this lot. So I thought that was a nice touch as well. Of it. So now I'm just going in and cleaning up a little bit before we move inside. I did want to make sure that the windows made sense on the exterior, and make sure that everything was matching. And this is obviously a bit of a continuity issue because the hedges are no longer there, but ignore that. The hedges are still there, y'all. And so now we're inside of the home and I'm just going in and now I'm going to add a bathroom on the first floor because it turns out that this little space here, I feel like it was not being used to its full potential. And so this ends up being a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom home. Of course, there's a full bath on the second floor, but on this first floor, I wanted like a little guest bathroom, so that the visitors wouldn't have to go through the house too much. Y'all, I cannot stand when other Sims come to the lot and they're just all through the house, sleeping in the beds, watching the TVs in the rooms, and let's just keep it to the first floor company. And so I wanted to make sure that company did have access to a bathroom while they were visiting at the very least. And so that's what you'll see here. This cute little shower bathroom situation on the first floor next to the bar. And I hope I get into this bar a little bit more. But I kind of wish I had built that bar on screen. I did follow a tutorial for how to get like a fish tank rounded situation, which you'll kind of see in the corner there. That's probably my favorite part of this entire home. And so that was really fun. Shout out to the creators who are just so creative, y'all, when it comes to these builds. I don't use tool mod just yet, but I think that some of their magic is coming from that tool, from that mod. And so I do want to thank the modders and the CC creators because y'all, they have just made playing The Sims so amazing, so awesome to this day, y'all. Years and years later, mind you, I started off on Sims 1 and 2 and 3 and now 4, and I'm very happy with the progression of the game. And so shout out to the creators though for making it fun to this day. Okay, let's get into this kitchen, y'all. You'll see I'm adding a lot of clutter. I feel like the kitchen is my favorite place to add clutter because there's so much kitchen clutter, especially, when you think about what's in your kitchen, the coffee situation and the utensils and the plates and the food and the storage, all of those things. And you don't really get that in The Sims. So you just kind of have to add those items where you see fit. And of course, the tools that we do have available to us. So our stove and our functional coffee pots and our functional crock pots, which this family loves to use, y'all. That's why you will definitely see these plates here because they have been living in this space, y'all. It is very much lived in. So I was just kind of going in and adding those decorations. I did my big one with that coffee station, as you'll see me. I love that little coffee station. I'm so proud of it. And of course, what's a home without the random laptop in the kitchen if your kitchen is big enough for that. That's just kind of that's that vibe I was going for. And so like I said, I was going for the wood and the black accent colors, that burnt orange. I just love burnt orange. Y'all, I love the color orange so bad, especially that tone of orange, that shade of orange. I wanted it everywhere in the house. And so I did utilize that color, especially with the exterior. I just started adding to the coziness. And I think the kitchen colors with the light brown and the black wood, I think it complements it nicely. And so I kind of try to extend that, especially as we're getting into the living room and designing this living room space and what that may or may not look like. I ended up, I think I eviscerated those couches in that area, ended up turning into a little area, a play area for our toddler, especially because she likes to come down those stairs a lot. And so I wanted a little space that I can just kind of enclose her into while mom and dad are working or cleaning or doing whatever it is that they're doing in that living area. And so you'll kind of see me shuffling the family around a bit as I'm figuring out how I'm going to design this space here. And please forgive me for the lighting issue. It is a bit dark at times. Y'all, I was not thinking when I did this. Also in build mode, there is no function for just turning on the lights. And so I probably should have just hopped back into live mode to turn on all the lights and make sure they stayed on. That was my fault. I'll remember that next time that I film one of these videos. So please bear with me. If you do like what you're seeing so far, please subscribe. I really do love building. I love cast. I am also getting back into gameplay, and so more storytelling on the way. I hope you enjoy that. And right now, you will see that I am sort of play testing this space and making sure that it's accessible for the family, which is why I like building with Sims on the lot. And so that space does end up becoming functional, which is perfect because it's such a cute space, y'all. I really love that little playpen situation under the stairs, and so we'll see our baby in there quite a bit, in the LP, of course. And so now I'm just going to go in with some more clutter I did move the desk into the bar area, so in that little corner next to the bathroom that I created there. I'm going back into the living room and I'm just kind of cleaning it up. I couldn't really decide how I wanted the living room space to look. And so moving that desk out of there was probably the best decision, especially as I think about a couch and some more decorations for that space. I ultimately ended up with a Christmas tree area. Obviously, it is winter, and so Winterfest is approaching. I love the holidays, and of course, I wanted to reflect that in my game in this home as well with this family. And so that is our first floor. And now we're going to get into the second floor, you guys. The second floor consists of our master bedroom and our toddler space, a washer dryer area, a full bathroom. And since we did add that shed extension to the building, to the home, that did create that second bedroom up there, which I will end up making the master bedroom. And so you'll see I'm moving that furniture over into that space and then opening up a new second living area for the upstairs as well. And now when it comes to the parents' room, I wanted to go for more neutral nude colors. I did play with green a bit because I do have that orange, and so I do love color, of course. But I found it that with the adults' room, I thought it would just make sense to go kind of brown, neutral nudes. And so I will kind of play around with that a bit as I'm figuring out a closet situation, a wardrobe situation. Of course, you have to have a dresser in the Sims in the game. It just makes it easier for gameplay to have a dresser there. And so I ultimately decided to put a dresser in that space in their bedroom. But it's very adult, very mature. And I do love it. I do really love it. So and the closet too with the wardrobe hanging for the mom and dad, his and her situation, that was perfect. And I found that I was able to play with colors a bit more in our kids' bedroom. And so I'm playing with some foliage, I'm playing with some clutter. I should probably change the color of that bedroom now that I think about it. But I wanted to just kind of stay on theme with the rest of the home, while acknowledging that, yes, a child lives here. And so it should be child friendly. Hence why there's a lot of toys. There's the child friendly bookshelves. There is the little princess bed. And so I got really creative when it came to those decorations. And there's a bunch in my game. And of course, a lot of this is also CC. So shout out to the creators. I think that dollhouse might even be CC. I can't quite remember. And of course, there is a little ballerina aesthetic going on because the mom in this LP is a dancer. And of course, she would probably pass that on to her daughter as well, which is why I started off with everything pink in this room. But then I will change the color. So because of course, yes, I did want to complement the colors as they already were. So yes, the items did remain, but I did try to change the color up a bit to just kind of complement what was already going on with the orange, and with the black and the wood aesthetic of this cabin home. And so that is our toddler's room. Now we're going to get into the living space in the second bathroom up here on the second floor. And so I'm going to make a bit of room for the bathroom, which we're going to do quite a bit of decorating in actually. In addition to the kitchen, I think the bathroom is probably like my next favorite area. And so this is a bit complicated to do because of the windows on the exterior of the build. I definitely didn't want to change how the exterior of the build looks, so that means I had to play around a bit with the interior of this floor, as you'll see here now. Okay, so it took me quite a while to find a shape that I liked. Again, I did not want to change the window placement, as though I'm just kind of tinkering with the different sizes or different angles, trying to figure out what makes sense to kind of create this bathroom enclosure without impeding too much on that master living room space. And so that was fun. I'm not sure if fun is the word, but it definitely was the process. And so you'll probably be a little dizzy on this part, but hopefully I can slow it down a bit to kind of show you all how I ended up decorating the bathroom. And so when it comes to bathrooms in my builds, I do love a shower, I do love a tub. Obviously, toilet and sink are all necessary in the process. And so I'm just kind of making space for those things here. And I decided that I wanted a double sink for mom and dad. I feel like there's a official word for that, but I wanted a large area when it comes to counter space, especially as they have a child who will probably be a teenager in that space. I wanted to make sure that the sink reflects that of, a family that I wouldn't say two parents and a child is a large family, but it certainly warrants some space in the bathroom. And so we ended up with an industrial style sink there, double sink, as well as an industrial style shower. In the tub, I wanted to go a little bit more artistic style, especially because this is obviously a family that is well off. And so that should reflect in most of the spaces in this home. But I'm really happy with this bathroom, especially the little divider there with the plant. I thought that was a perfect touch. And so when we get into this master living room space, I should mention that I am a book girly. I love books. And so naturally, of course, I'm going to find a way to get a library in here, a stack of books somewhere in all of my builds, you guys. I think it's just a perfect touch. And so I did want to make sure I had some space for that. As I'm picking out my couches and my decorations and the television, I went with the painter um or it looks like a picture, but it's actually a television right there on the wall there. And so I wanted to get a little creative with the artwork. And so I did eventually find the perfect piece of art to place on the walls. And I just absolutely love this space, y'all. Oh my goodness. And so now I'm just putting the finishing touches on as we wrap up the video here, at least the build mode aspect. And so I really hope you guys enjoyed this. Again, please leave a like, a comment, share. I'm not sure if people do that anymore. But let me know if you like the video. I look forward to making more, and I hope that you'll enjoy this cinematic preview of what is to come. So we're doing this again. Gonna act like this every time the holidays roll around. It's not healthy.
Can't you see he's controlling our lives?
When you needed someone to invest in your company, he was there. And now everything we have is thanks to my father. It's not my fault you didn't know who you were getting in business with. Now go build a new app. And can we please be done with this conversation? Look, I'm sorry things didn't pan out the way you thought they would, but we're gonna get through this. You're part of the family now.